We got news and notes, a lot of them. An update on Jaxon Smith-Njigba and the Seahawks passing game. Baker Mayfield being named the starting quarterback. First, though, is there a difference between a bust list and an avoid list? And this is where I feel like I'm really connected to the people because 71% said yes, 23% said no, and 7% said I'm confused. All right, let's get
How many said see results?
That wasn't an option. This was a Schaefer poll.
I'm confused is good enough.
Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers, before we get to the JSN thing, Dave, you quote tweeted something about Aaron Rodgers raving about Breece Hall and how good he looks. And you said something like, if Breece Hall is there at pick 45 or something, take him. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah. I'm all in on Breece Hall. I'm excited that he's practicing with the team. This is the second person on the Jets to talk about how fast he's running on the GPS. Sounds like he's making good progress back on the knee, and it sounds like he'll be an impact player. And if Aaron Rodgers has gotten a look at him and he goes, oh, this guy's pretty darn good, I'd like to get him involved in the offense, then that guy's going to get involved in the offense. So I'm not taking him in round 3. That's way too soon. And okay, I've got him ranked. I'm ranked 40th in PPR. Would I take him at 40? I don't think I have to because I've got so many other guys that are going to go after him ahead of him in my rankings. So maybe I would avoid him at 40th, but by no means is he a bust. And if I see him in late round 4 or into round 5, I am taking Breece Hall almost whether I need him or not.
This is an interesting
winning upside.
An interesting discussion, I think, because like that Breece Hall at 40. And I think you're right. Like if you have a guy ranked at 40 and it's pick 40, there's a pretty good chance there's somebody you have ranked at 36 or 37 that's still there.
Sure.
But you are on the clock at pick 40 and you think, he's not going to go pick 44 or 45 or whatever, but you're not going to pick again until pick 56. There's a pretty good chance that Breece Hall's gone. Are you saying that you'd take somebody that you had ranked behind Breece Hall?
No.
Even if you might not get, if Breece Hall is the top ranked player at 40, you'd take him at 40.
Sure. And the context is there are a number of running backs I would take ahead of him. There's Aaron Jones, Etienne, Pierce, Gibbs, Ramondre. And for now, I have Najee one notch ahead of Breece Hall. I don't know if I can flip Najee below Breece Hall. That's the one that I just look at and I go, maybe. Might depend on what my team looks like by the time I'm picking at 40th overall. If I really struck it big with my first 3 picks, I guess, then I might do it. I might just keep chasing that upside, that dreamy, imaginary upside.
Look at the ADP in NFC drafts over the last week. And I like NFC. You can set a date range. RBs go super low. That's one of the big difference between NFC and the other websites I see is that wide receivers go earlier in this and running backs go later. Sorry. But Breece Hall is RB 16. He's going 53rd overall.
Right.
Etienne, Mixon, and Aaron Jones are 13, 14, and 15. Then it's Breece Hall. Then it's Javonte Williams at RB 17.
Yeah.
And then Ken Walker, 18, Dobbins, Cook, Madison, Pierce.
So I got Javonte Williams, I think, in round 7 or 8 in our IDP draft. And I was obviously thrilled. I have Javonte Williams ahead of Breece Hall. What's the argument for, like, Javonte's back sooner? We've been discounting him because he's going to be in this shared role with Samaje Perine, but Samaje Perine is not near as big of threat as Dalvin Cook. So if Javonte's more recovered and has less competition, I like why the that Javonte is so close to Breece Hall in ADP?
Because I don't think he's as good of a player.
I'm just surprised by it, Heath. It hasn't even been close, and now being back to back in just one website's ADP over the last.
And I did notice, like in CBS PPR leagues, Breece has fallen 13 spots. He's down to RB 20 at pick 53.
Yeah. Him in the 40s would be crazy to me, but I don't know, man. Like in round 4, well, because I'm used to seeing all those really exciting wide receivers go in round 4, Hopkins and Judy and DJ Moore, and it's a really good wide receiver round, typically for us. But all right, anyway, let's go to our next news item. It is Terry McLaurin could play week 1. Now JSN. Jaxon Smith-Njigba had surgery, or will have surgery for a broken wrist. His timetable is unclear. They have not ruled him out for week 1. I don't think a lot of people think he'll be back for week 1, but it's possible. They open with the Rams, then they're at the Lions, Carolina, at the Giants. Monday Night Football. I plan on going to that game. See y'all there. JSN. All right. Dave wants to do his projections for Seattle wide receivers. But first of all, guys, how long should fantasy managers think if we're drafting today and we take JSN? What should we expect? And I know it's hard to know, but we have to at least give people a guideline. What should they think for the timetable here?
I don't think that my timetable for when I think he could be the number 1 wide receiver for Seattle's changed, which is the second half of the season. But I wasn't planning on starting him week 1.
Right.
And so you definitely shouldn't plan on that. I think maybe you're thinking now that maybe by week 3 or week 4, I'll feel comfortable starting him.
Okay. All right, Dave, what do you got for projections here?
Well, I wanted to compare my projections to Heath's projections just to see how close or far away we were on all 3 of the Seahawks. Are we doing JSN first or last?
Let's go Metcalf, Lockett, JSN.
Okay, so Metcalf I've got at 135 targets, 85 catches, 1,079 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That is 14.2 PPR points per game.
How many catches?
85.
Okay. So I think the only difference is I basically have him with 10 fewer targets.
Okay.
Because I've got 126 targets, 79 for 990 and 7.5. Okay. So like the ratios are almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that I have 10 fewer targets for DK than you do.
Okay, so neither of us have him projected for 15 PPR points per game. Adam, if you don't mind, can you look at the ADPs for these guys, including DK in full PPR?
Yeah, I will.
That way we can compare where they're going with what the production might be.
Yeah, I'll use Fantasy Pros full PPR.
Okay, and I do expect DK to be less affected by JSN being in Seattle than Lockett.
Metcalf is wide receiver 15. He is a 3rd-round pick. Let's go to Lockett's projections.
Okay. So a little rich for a guy who might not get 15 PPR points per game. In fact, he hasn't even gotten 14 PPR points per game each of the last 2 seasons. Lockett, 122 targets, 78 catches, 982 yards, 6 touchdowns, 16 games, 13.3 PPR points per game.
So I think you're a little low on the efficiency for Lockett. Which is easy to be because he is one of the most efficient wide receivers of all time, and he's 30 years old. So if you want to ding him for that, I think that's okay. I've got him at 115 targets, 81 catches, 1,002 yards, 6.6 touchdowns.
Okay. I think he's going to run a little further downfield this year because of JSN being there. I think JSN is their solution to cover 2 and short and mid-range throws. And I don't know if Lockett's going to pick up as many. So that's why I've made him less efficient. And it's interesting. I have more targets for him than you do. ADP on Lockett, Adam?
Wide receiver 28, 74th overall.
I think that's a really good value for a guy that we're projecting to have north of 13 PPR points per game.
Well, yesterday, I think I saw the news, and I thought JSN would probably be back for week 1. I feel like the timeline got a little bit more pessimistic as the day went on when we heard from Pete Carroll, but I took Pickens over Lockett, and I hate myself for it. I should not.
Oh, you might not once the season gets going.
I don't know. I think it was a mistake. And I think this is, not to derail this projections thing, but should we be boosting Metcalf and Lockett? You guys have been calling Metcalf a bust for a while because he's going in the middle of the 3rd round. He's going before a big group of wide receivers that you like better than him. And, in our drafts, when we, just our internal drafts, whatever, he's usually kind of a mid to late 4th round pick. Do you still feel that way? Should we be boosting Metcalf and Lockett with this JSN news?
Has DK been worth a round 3 pick without JSN?
Look,
one time in his career.
Answer the question that I don't want to get into that again.
But JSN's going to miss at most 2 games.
But
I think the answer is no.
He's also a rookie who's never played before that now has a preseason injury. So should you boost Lockett and or Metcalf?
No.
I would say no.
Okay.
In fact, I did not, nor did I move down JSN. So now let's get to JSN's projections. I do have him projected for 16 games. 106 targets, 71 catches, 823 yards, 7 touchdowns, 12.2 PPR points per game.
You're higher on him as well. That's an insane touchdown rate.
I know.
70, 834, and 5.5 on 104 targets.
So almost the same for all three of these guys.
Yeah.
ADP on JSN, AA.
Wide receiver 36, 95th overall. Just ahead of Jordan Addison.
Almost right where I have him, but I have Addison higher.
Yeah, me too. Based on two nerds projections and the ADP that Adam's telling us, Lockett seems like the best value. Rinse, wash, repeat when it comes to the Seattle wide receivers.
Okay. So that covers the Seattle wide receivers. Nobody else can. Baker Mayfield named the starting quarterback for Tampa Bay. He played 12 games last year. He scored single-digit fantasy points in half of his games. And that's in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. But look at the start. Look at the schedule for Mayfield at Minnesota and then Chicago. His first 2 games. I know Minnesota made a lot of upgrades on defense, and Chicago did too. I'm not sure about their secondary, but those would be 2 beautiful matchups. But does anybody care starting the season for Baker Mayfield?
Okay. Maybe it keeps Kyle Trask on the bench until week 4.
Right. Trask is going to play at some point.
Sanders said he'll absolutely be ready for week 1 at Atlanta, then New Orleans in his first 2 games. Peter King of NBC Sports said we should be really, really careful drafting Bijan Robinson because there are too many mouths to feed. Peter King also said that he stinks at fantasy football and we should take it with a shaker of salt and not a grain of salt.
I don't know how he can say that after Arthur Smith took this guy as a top 10 pick. Like, obviously, a top 10 rookie pick in Arthur Smith offense is going to be just fantasy gold.
I can't tell if you're doing a bit. I can't tell. I feel like that was dripped in sarcasm. Drenched
it was.
In sarcasm. Okay.
Because he's taken a top 10 skill position player each of the last 2 seasons, and they've not been fantasy
missed. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good argument against Bijan. The argument for is that he's an unbelievably talented running back who's looked great on the field, both in preseason games and practice. And this team was like the best in football at running it last year with Mariota under center and Tyler Algier getting 1,000 yards.
Bijan Robinson really looked so fast.
Oh my God.
Was really
same thing in practice against the Dolphins. Although you couldn't really tell, you could see the cuts against the Dolphins. They did a lot of red zone the day I was there, so you couldn't really get an idea for long speed. But if you've watched him play football, you've seen it. And the way that they were lining him up, he was in jet motion multiple times with Algier in the backfield. He lined up wide. He lined up in the slot. He's going to be, and he was unguardable in like goal to go 7-on-7 drills. He scored a touchdown every time. And he would have had a touchdown. I don't know if you watched the game. You can't see it on the film.
Oh, he's wide open.
He was wide open. The play after London had the catch, but the Bengals challenged it. So it was a combination of poor coverage, obviously, by Cincinnati, but he was wide open for another touchdown catch. Well, he's going to get like 6 touchdowns receiving.
I mean, I cannot believe Ritter didn't throw that football. That was really pathetic. But anyway, don't comment. Jets left tackle Dwayne Brown will come off the PUP list today. Their offensive line is healthy now. The Athletics' Paul Denner thinks that Chris Evans could be the Bengals passing downs back. Chris Evans.
He's going to be. That's what he did best in college. He ran the ball a lot in college too, but like that's what he's best at.
So do you handcuff Joe Mixon? I shouldn't have said it that way. Do you draft a handcuff for Joe Mixon?
Deeper leagues, you could. I wouldn't in a standard or PPR 14-team, 12 manager league.
I'm not really into handcuffs, but I don't mind drafting a Bengals backup running back.
He's into whips.
Chris Evans?
He would. I think I need to move him ahead of Chase Brown. Yeah.
I think you have to, unfortunately.
Even with a zinger there. I like that. By the way, Joe Mixon only played 47 snaps on third down last year. Samaje Perine played 136. Here's a hidden, bust factor for Joe Mixon. And I said this about Josh Jacobs, Mixon, Ramondre, I'd say, but he might play more on third down. What if they just don't throw to the running backs on first and second down as much? The Bengals had the third most targets to running backs on first and second down last year. The year before, they were 30th in running back targets on first and second down.
But you know what happened? Like, I don't think teams are just going to decide they're okay with Jamar Chase running down the sideline in single coverage like that happened 2 years ago. They got the Patrick Mahomes shell coverage treatment, and so they started throwing underneath a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, and they will continue to do that, but this was sort of an extreme version of that. I could see the ADOT going up, or the air yards per pass attempt going up for Burrow. It was pretty damn low last year, and just a lot of dump offs. Maybe that could change. I'm just saying Mixon is not a third down back. He caught a lot of passes. He's not a third down back. People just need to be aware of that. And Mike Gesicki and Ty Montgomery both returned to practice for the Patriots. Who's
Great.
the third down back for the Patriots, you think?
It could be Ezekiel Elliott if it's a passing down. If it's like 3rd and 7, and they got to have an extra protector for Mac Jones.
Okay.
I think it really depends on if Bill O'Brien's going to draw up as many screenplays as they did last year. If they're going to use their running back more in protection, I agree it will be Zeke.